Hello, my friends, my family, my community, my tribe. Welcome to the Hippie Moms podcast. I'm just going to try out different rhythms and sounds for my music, for my podcast. So let me know what you think. Thank you so much for joining me today. You may be able to tell I am recovering from a little cold. Last week we had a snowstorm came in. I talked about that on my last podcast. And every single time the season changes from fall to winter, I get my annual cold. And this is not what the podcast is about, but we can talk about this further and deeper in other podcasts. But it actually, if you don't get sick at all, that's actually not a good sign. So if you get your annual cold and maybe even a light version of the flu, that's actually good for you. We are not told these things, I understand, but it's so important to know that that is how your immune system is primed. So I'm going to be a little raspy. I'm going to sound a little sexier. So we'll just thank my annual cold for that, okay? So welcome. Today I really want to talk about my biggest false belief about time and money, moving into this lifestyle of creating more health and wellness for my family, because I know so many people believe that living healthy is expensive, right? A lot of people struggle with it because the process is overwhelming. And when we're overwhelmed, what happens? We've talked about that. We make excuses and then why we can't continue forward on our journey, and then we stay stuck, right? The experience of paralysis by analysis. So I kind of want to talk about a couple things that I've found that myself and my clients get stuck with. And I want to give you a new perspective on these things. So if you are someone that you've found yourself in this stuckness, I want to give you a new thought to maybe hold on to, or maybe belief system, or help you challenge the belief system that you already have, to know that you're not alone. Okay. So many people go through the same process. And so what I'm here to do is to help you, to just give you a new perspective. Okay. So first I'm going to start with a story. This was the story when, I was moving through my clean living journey. It was a very long process for me. And I want to tell you this because I didn't have someone that I knew like myself to guide me. That's why I'm such an advocate of being a guide for women and a kind of like that lighthouse, someone to just say, this is what you need to focus on and you don't need to worry about that. This is where we start. This is, don't get so overwhelmed, which I was so overwhelmed. And I remember this moment in my motherhood where, so we were living in Scottsdale and I woke up one morning and our sink had a huge leak. Okay, it was from our O system, our reverse osmosis system. And it completely, the water infiltrated underneath this beautiful laminate flooring. Actually, it was horrible. It was like that fake wood laminate that we moved into. We hadn't done the floors. And so we had some people come in, they turned off the water and they identified, okay, we're gonna have to, undo all of this because we couldn't just do the kitchen floor. We had to do the entire house. So we ended up going through this huge whole house remodel that we weren't planning. I was already, my kids were young. My eldest was 4.5. My youngest was 2.5, around there. And I was in the midst. I shared that story with you in the last podcast about how I was just in a really, really rough time. And so now we're forced to move out of our house. We moved 3 times in all of this. And I remember I was just so overwhelmed. We were finally found a place we could actually stay for a whole month. And so we were living in this house. The house had a pool that did not have a fence around it. So I was constantly on edge, making sure the doors were locked, making sure my eldest didn't unlock the door. I mean, I was in constant fear and stress and trying to, live this lifestyle of, again, I'm still trying to perfect this lifestyle of eating clean and eating healthy. And I was just overwhelmed because I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. I was so stressed. I eventually came down with hives. I had hives all over my body. I was a red, basically I looked like a just full on red. My skin was lifted. So I had this weird texture that was going on. I was so uncomfortable. I was itching. And of course, I wasn't going to go use this cortisol cream that you were supposed to use, right? I mean, I didn't want to put all this toxic stuff all over my body. So I got to this point where I just really needed to know, what was the next step? What was the next step that I had to do to get myself out of this place? Highly stressed, trying to be perfect, trying to manage motherhood, wifehood, lifehood, all of it. And the one thing that I realized is that I knew innately that my health was important to me. Because if I wasn't taking care of my health, what happened? This stuff happened, right? I broke out in hives. I yelled at my kids. I was in constant mental agony. And this was kind of the next awakening for me, right? Is that I really need to get my priorities straight. And trying to be perfect obviously was a complete false belief that I had, because there is no perfection. There is no place in your life that you reach and you're like, there I am, I'm in this destination, I'm ready. No, you're always constantly and evolving. And these are the things that I really struggled with through the earlier part of my journey, and what I really believe led to this stress, okay? So the first one is that, doing this is really expensive. And I have to tell you, I did it expensively. I bought all the superfoods. I bought all the supplements. I bought all the things that were supposed to make me healthy. And to be honest, none of them worked. I mean, I would implement some here and some there. And actually, there's some things that I still use today that I'll share with you eventually, all the things that I love and I use. But I was spending so much money. And the thing is that when you come from a place when you're eating a lot of inexpensive foods, when, the fact is that eating conventional food is just really cheap. And so when you've been eating cheap conventional food for years, if not your whole life, which I was, spending more money on produce and organic products and supplements and superfoods, it seems ridiculous. It seems insulting. And I was really struggling with this because here we were going through this remodel that was costing us a lot of money, which we were not prepared for this expense at all. We were living day to day, paycheck by paycheck. This was just the fact. This is our reality. So for this to come about was super stressful. And so I was spending all this money on expensive food. And so I had to figure out, what is it that you really need? What are the things that you really should focus on buying clean? And what I discovered through research, and I'm just going to give you two of the most important things. That's produce, right? Produce for sure, and meat. Those were the two things. And so I really figured out, okay, I don't need these supplements. I don't need all these superfoods. I'm going to focus on buying these clean meats, and I'm going to focus on buying the produce, right? Organic produce, or following the Clean 15. So the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 are the two lists that the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, put out to say, listen, these are the top 12 produce that are high in pesticides. So buy these organic. And then here's the clean 15. These are conventional produce items that you can buy conventional that don't test high in pesticides of what you eat. So like that'd be like bananas and avocados and things like that have a thick skin, right? Like lemons and citrus. So the thing was though, is that, what I realized is making this transition to eat clean from, eating conventional and eating packaged processed foods. I mean, it's a big jump for a lot of people. And so the belief and the kind of idea and perspective I really teach is that relying on inexpensive, super convenient, and overly processed foods in our demanding lives and schedules is a crutch. It's a crutch. And did you know that the largest cause of bankruptcy in our country is due to medical bills? And it's going to be so much more expensive in the future to pay for all the pills and procedures required to get you back to health. And so that was kind of like this understanding that we invest money now, okay? And you invest it smart, right? You invest on produce, you invest on meat, you try to buy things organically. You don't have to, again, buy these expensive supplements and superfoods, okay? That's one thing I really want you to know. It's about, really investing your money in the food that you eat, the food that becomes you, because you are investing in your health so that 10, 15, 20 years down the line, you are not having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on medical bills, right? And then just think about the quality of life you're going to have. I talk a lot about this in my programs. The first thing whenever we move into a cleanse, a detox, a reset, is all about mindset. And that's a big part of my programs is the mindset, is really identifying like, why do you want to do this? Finding your why. Simon Sinek has a great talk on finding your why. I highly recommend it. I'll put it in the show notes. I'm going to make myself a little note here so I don't forget. It's really connecting, like, why do you want to make these changes? For me, I want to be a grandmother that is like running around with my grandkids. Right now, my mom had a hip replacement, and because of her health issues, she's not recovering very well. And I love her dearly. And she has a twin sister, my aunt, who has diabetes, who has not taken care of herself. And I just see how much suffering that she's going through in their 60s. And I just refuse to be there. I refuse to be so ill that my quality of life is low. I want a high quality of life. And it takes investment right now to do that. Okay. So connecting with your why, really understanding why you want to make changes, that's your fuel. That's your fuel right there. All right, the next kind of biggest belief is that health food and like living healthy takes a lot of time. Now, I have to say that, I don't spend tons of hours or days in the kitchen cooking complex meals to eat and just to feel well. High quality and fresh food is easy to prepare once you learn how to do it. And if most people are in this phase in their life where they're cooking and preparing food through microwaves and, putting plastic or aluminum containers in the oven. So, if that's what you're used to doing, then you're going to have a really hard time, transitioning to creating food a different way. And so you have to give yourself grace. You have to be easy on yourself, and you have to take little steps. Like maybe you normally do microwave dishes. Okay. Maybe maybe another way is to find a food preparation and delivery company that will deliver prepared foods or food ideas that are already in a state that are ready to be made. Or just start slow, start making grilling your meat or baking your meat or, just make one meal a day a priority for you to make something with whole food, okay? So I think that's like what's really important is that when you understand how to actually source clean and real ingredients, you can create all your favorite meals. You can create burgers. You can create, French fries. And I love Michael Pollan saying that if you're going to eat junk food, make it at home, right? Just make it at home. We make French fries, we eat burgers, we do all those things. We just make it from real whole homemade ingredients. And of course, it takes time to do that. And that's why I love what big thing that I do in my courses is we do meal planning and we figure out like, what are we going to make and how do we batch cook and how do we do these things so that we're not starting from scratch every meal, right? Every meal we're like, okay, what do we already have cooked? What do we already have prepared? And what do we have planned? So that, you're going to cut your time, 75%. If you just plan and prepare and batch cook every meal, you're going to save so much time and you're going to eat healthy and you're going to start to feel well. Another thing I really deal with is healthy food is hard to find, or healthy eating is hard to find. And actually it's easier than ever with all the resources we have, right? And there are so many health-focused grocery stores out there. But the main thing is you need to know what to look for because there's so many products that are greenwashed, right? We'll talk more about that in this podcast, is how to really source food. I'm going to do a whole how to source clean food on a budget. So I will access, and I actually have a blog post and video already on there. So I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. Okay. So that you can have access to that. I'll probably redo that and have more of a conversation about it, but you have access to that right now. So if you want to learn how to eat healthy on a budget, check out my blog post. It's in the show notes. Another big thing that I deal with too is that people just believe healthy food isn't good. And I'll tell you that if you're eating processed foods all the time, and this is something that I know moms deal with a lot with kids, because if they're always eating cheap, processed, hyper palatable foods, when you give them real food, they're going to be like, ew, right? They're like, their taste buds are not going to respond to that because their taste buds have been experiencing these explosive, man-made, taste bud, invigorating flavors and like chemicals that just make your mouth go boom, right? So that's something that I really want you to consider is that there is a time and kind of a transition that you have to consider as your taste buds readjust. Food scientists have been designing foods this way to make them addicting. And that's the thing. These foods hijack their taste buds and they're hyperpalatable. And so it's just about retesting, readjusting, reteaching, relearning in your taste buds, okay? Now, the one thing that I really want you to consider too here as we move through this is that it's so important that you take responsibility for your health, and I want you to view yourself as this holistic being. It's not just about the food we eat, right? It's the thoughts we think. It's whether we move our body, whether we don't, whether we're connected to our community, whether we're not. And I think if you're someone that you're just kind of already overwhelmed at the idea of changing what you eat and changing the way you think and changing the way you move or not move your body, it can be super overwhelming. And so one step that I will give you that is always important and that can really help you on this path is this: just drink more water. Wake up, instead of drinking straight, coffee or jet fuel, drink water. Start drinking water every day. Just do that. And then once you're doing that, you have these little victories and you're like, okay, I'm doing that. What's next, right? What's next? And that's the one thing that you can do is we are a sum of all of the choices that we make in our lives. And so if you can just make one or two little changes every day, or just say this week, I'm just going to focus on drinking water. That's it. Next week, go to the grocery store, right? Buy your produce on the Dirty Dozen. Focus on buying those produce organically, okay? It's little steps. And that's how we get to where we want to go. I try to take these huge leaps. I try to make these huge changes. And let me tell you, it didn't work. It caused a lot of stress and pain and suffering. And I don't want you to do that. I want to be here to show you that you don't need to make these major changes. You just need to start, you need to start cleaning up the toxins in your life and how you do, and supporting your beautiful body that you get to live in, okay? So the biggest thing I want you to take away from this is that there is no pill for every ill. We have to get out of this mentality that the next best, the next thing that we see, the next supplement, the next pharmaceutical drug, the next new idea and product, it's not going to solve all of our problems. It might help you, right? Taking vitamin D supplement may help you. It might actually help you a lot, but it's not going to solve all your problems. You are your problem solver. You and only you are the one that is going to create wealth and health in your lives. And health is wealth, really. Because I want you to look at, if you're not making changes now, I want you to talk to your future self. I do this a lot. It may sound a little woo-woo and a little crazy, and I am all that. I am all woo-woo and all crazy, okay? And that's okay. That's me. But I want you to really look at your future self. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be where you are 10 years down the line? And if you're continuing to do the same things, developing type 2 diabetes, suffering from joint and hip issues, brain fog, diabetes 3, which is dementia and Alzheimer's. This is something that you really need to think about. And the future, my vision of my future self always helps me create habits today. I want to be the optimal version of Becky Wells. I really do. I want to be healthy. I want to be on point. I want to be creating in the flow. I want to be a present mother. I want to be a big part of my community. I want to be connected to my community. I want to be fulfilling the purpose, my mission that I'm here to do on earth. And I'm going to make choices every day that are going to reflect that vision. So you really have to get to that vision, right? Connect to the vision. I'm going to be creating this hippie mom community collective kind of mastermind. And this is what we talk about, right? This is connecting to that vision of who we want to be and then laying out day by day, what does that mean? What does the optimal version of Becky Wells, what does she do every day? What does her day look like, right? What is she doing? And what has she done to get her to where she needs to go? So really connect to who you want to be. And I promise you, when you connect to that, you're going to start to see things in your life, your habits, your choices, your decisions, your thoughts that are not in alignment with that. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It seems overwhelming, but let me tell you, it's not. Because when you can really understand where are the things that are, what are the things that are keeping you from being that, you're not going to want them anymore. You're not going to want to wake up and turn on the TV and scroll on your phone and drink a big cup of coffee and stress about your day, right? You're going to wake up. You're going to say, hey, I'm going to connect to myself. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to do these little exercises or meditation or, breath work that's going to keep me centered, that's going to keep me balanced and patient and in connection, in alignment with my life, okay? So if you want to take a little homework with you, I want you to really take a piece of paper and start to write down who that optimal version of you is, what their day looks like, what do they do? And don't hold back. Don't play small. You understand me? Don't play small. Play big. As if everything, because it is, everything is possible. Okay? The only limits we have in our lives are those that we place on ourselves. Okay? So it is so vital that you say yes to life. You say yes to what you want to create. Okay? So do that. And really start to look at what's in alignment and what's not, and then pick one thing that is in alignment and start doing that. And just being hydrated, just giving your body the hydration it needs can help take you there. all right? It affects every part of our body, every part of our brain and our being. So if you're drinking clean, filtered water, highly recommend the Berkey filter, by the way. That is on my resource page if you want to get more information about that. Just drink water, right? Or maybe you're just waking up and taking 10 deep breaths, or not getting on your social media or your phone for an hour after you wake up. Turn off that news, right? Turn off the fear and just connect with who you are. Giving you a lot of opportunities, a lot of ideas, and this is where it begins. It begins from where you are. So embrace where you are now. Again, this is just the point where we jump off. This is the point where we say, all right, I'm done being here. I'm ready to be something different. Okay. All right. I think that's gonna be, where we're gonna stop here. In the next episode, we're gonna talk about how I help people move from that pain to pleasure. And I'm gonna help you understand how to take yourself from pain to pleasure. Okay? Because that's what we want to do. We're always moving away from pain or towards pleasure. And so how do we do that in a way that is in alignment with where we want to go? That's what we're going to be talking about. All right, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being here. I love you all, and I will see you. I will talk to you. I will be heard and engaged with you on the next podcast. Love you all, my friends, my family, my community, my tribe.